Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Little Atypical. So, as you can tell from the title, today what we'll be talking about is the winter arc. Unless you've been living under a rock, this topic has been all over social media. I'm pretty sure I briefly mentioned it last episode, but I kind of wanted to talk about it from a new perspective because while I love the motivation, the discipline, and the energy around a winter arc, I think the challenge, the setup is pretty similar to if a person was to do 75 hard. The difference is that it's for 90 days. It was meant to start October 1st, and as I'm recording this, it is the end of the second week of October. I kind of wanted to do a spin-off because the rules I've been seeing, some people have a very balanced perspective going into their own winter arc. Some people's own are extreme, probably not for themselves, but extreme for beginners new to wellness. And I kind of just wanted to, I guess, give the perspective of starting a winter arc for people new into wellness, new into personal development, and have a conversation about that. Because not all winter arc videos are bad. For most people, it's very much foundational. It's finishing off your year strong for some people. For other people, it may be preparing for the year to come. Basically, the idea is making it like a whole new year and to think about your goals for the next year in advance. And for some people, that may be pressure. I personally loved thinking about my goals in advance. Last year, though, since I wasn't in the best headspace, even though I planned my year early, I would say from November that I started planning for the year to come. But even so, it was more like ideas, research, trying different things, but trying to discover and figure out what is it that I really want. And I do think for some people, they need that time frame. If you feel pressured to do the winter arc or want to do it but don't know really where to start because it seems like everyone is coming from the basics of either sometimes health, sometimes that perspective. But I also think a winter arc could and should be about different areas of life. And honestly, people should talk about more how to adjust it for what people want to do. Like, for example, a lot of winter arcs, like for people who posted it, say like no distractions. Depending on the person, the distractions will be different. One that I was reading had certain rules, right? Okay, so to start off, I'm going to give you an example for when you look up winter arc women's plan on TikTok. So this person says, rule number 1, 10K steps a day. Gym 3 to 5 times a week. Push your body until absolute failure. Rule number 2, cut out all distractions. Men, binge eating, doom scrolling, etc. These are all procrastination sources that the Bible warns us about. Pray against laziness and sloth. 3, deep work, 2 to 3 hours a day, whatever it is you're working on, whether it be school, a skill, the Bible. Dedicate time out of your day with your phone. Put it in a room to work. Rule number 4, bulk or cut, choose a diet and stick to it. Rule number 5, wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. every day to meditate, pray, work out, and take a cold shower. Rule number 6, when a task comes to your mind, tackle it. This builds calluses on your mind to become stronger. The more comfortable you get with doing uncomfortable things, the easier your life will be in other areas. And let me just say this, preface this. I'm not saying that winter arc is not a good idea. I'm saying that some people's level of winter arc could work, but could be strenuous for someone who maybe never did the inner work first. Maybe they never did introspection work. They never did certain things beforehand. One piece of advice that I want to include in this is if you didn't plan for a winter arc, give yourself a period of time, whether it be only 1 week or 2 weeks, even if you need the entire month to shed. And when I say this, I mean to explore what would be right for you. So, to explain this better, I'm gonna give you the highlights of what went down before October 1st for me. So, the end of September, the first week of October. First of all, I was in a very good headspace. I was motivated. On September 27th, I had my first therapy session. And I do want to talk more about this eventually, but I want to give myself more time to fully reflect the process of doing therapy again after years of not doing therapy. Because if you know from my blog post, I am a huge advocate for therapy. I've done it before when I was in a worse headspace, but something I've been learning very quickly is therapy is not just for when you're in a bad headspace or going through problems. Sometimes I think having someone to just talk about your ideas with and help hold you accountable to the growth that you want to have is helpful. So that's a huge reason why I started therapy, because while I was in the headspace I was in, it wasn't bad. It wasn't extreme. Honestly, I've just been in a hazy place, stressed on some occasions, but honestly, nothing was really that bad. I think I was in a state of being calm and explorative, I guess. So, yeah, started my therapy session September 27th. Then on the 30th, I went to the mall because I wanted to do a solo date, but more importantly, I wanted to get stuff to prepare for the things I'm doing in order to work on my career and that area of my life. That's why I say, like, oh, when we talk about the winter arc, like, yes, our health is the foundation. I will never not say that, but there's so much areas of our lives. For every person, it's gonna look different. So right now for me, career is a huge part of it. So I needed some things and everything like that. And I was just in a very vibrational headspace, good headspace, and everything. Everything was all right in the world. Everything felt good. Fast forward to a few days later, someone in my life texted me, and it was ironic because of reasons. I just found it funny, even though I wasn't sure, but they kind of just popped right in the same day on the 30th. I didn't even recognize it until middle of the week, so October 3rd, right? So the first, I didn't recognize it. The second, I didn't even know a message was there. Third, that's when I kind of realized. And the thing is, and this is where I do agree with people, that week, many astrologers were telling people to be careful to not crash out. I don't think I necessarily crashed out that time because I said a lot less than I want to say, and I did journal about what I wanted to say. I talked about everything in my journal because I felt bad. But then on October, I think the 4th was the Friday, and then I had my second therapist session. After that session, it worked out a lot of thoughts. Then I had like a new perspective out of it because that was the last shedding. You know what I mean? And maybe I do like astrology, and a lot of things have been saying, like, oh, especially for cardinal signs, and as someone who's pretty much all cardinal sign, that big changes are happening and your life is kind of, I guess, shedding light and giving you perspective on things that's been going on in your life. And it's kind of like the last shed until things completely change. And you know what? Maybe it's because I want to hold a lot more faith that I am choosing to believe that's true. And with that being said, with that crash out because of that person, I allowed myself to be sad. I allowed myself to be upset. And by the time I went into the second week, it was like, game on, I can focus. And I allowed myself to focus. And all this is to say, it's not going to be perfect. And you don't need it to be perfect. Because the first week, I'm going to be honest, I was in so much physical pain. And because of, yes, certain health issues that I had, more likely I have PCOS, but I also can't fully get the results on that because my endocrinologist, I did have an appointment, and then something happened for them to need to cancel the appointment, and their next availability is going to be next summer in 2025 because she would be on maternal leave. I will eventually get that sorted and get more information on my health journey, PCOS journey, and everything. So until then, I just have to do my best to manage that aspect of my health. Honestly, just focus on other aspects that I want to work on. This year, what I'm doing differently, because I do think that I tried the isolation method. I think that when people promote the winter arc, many people are doing that to remove things like codependency, if that is a problem for them, that they can't be alone by themselves or with their thoughts. But being someone who naturally comes from solitude, and it takes more effort and it takes more of me to push out of my comfort zone. Pushing myself out of my comfort zone will not look like solitude. It will look like trying to build relationships. It will look like trying to not hermit, I guess. That is my comfort zone because for some people, being alone with themselves is their discomfort. They don't like being alone with themselves. They don't like being alone with their thoughts. They don't like being alone with themselves because they never got a chance to know themselves because they followed what they thought they were supposed to do. Whereas some of us, we kind of did the opposite, but then it leads to these other different issues of trying to implement yourself into society and not masking and all of those things. So, all this to say, what my winter arc will be about, and you can take inspiration from this, is one, obviously health, managing my health the best way possible. Two, focusing on creating an ecosystem of support for myself and support for my goals. Three, detachment and allowing myself to let go of control of things and allow fate to happen. Because as someone who is curious, and I did an entire reflection on this, but why it was so hard for me to have faith and conceptualize faith and having to build that up and allow my life to unfold the way it's meant to without holding on so tight to a vision when I don't know what else is out there, and stop looking for proof of things that I know I am. So these are all like just some topics. It's mostly about overall self-education on things that I think I needed to learn, and I do believe I need to learn and work on. My winter arc is becoming me again and rebuilding myself after a long time of questioning and trying to honestly be a person split between what I believed would be me in a relationship versus me with myself. And somewhere along the way, I lost myself, even with trying my best and honestly having to learn that I show love. And there are ways people make you feel not enough, but deciding that you know you are, and you don't have to constantly prove yourself, prove that you are the things you know yourself to be. And I'm not ready to get into that because now I'm in a whole other arena of healing. And but this time I have so much more support on how that goes, which I'm grateful for. And All of this to say is if your winter arc doesn't look like the intense version that's put on social media, if your circumstances are different for your winter arc, if your rules are different for your winter arc, let it be. And all this to say, I hope you find the things that will work for you. Do not allow yourself to get swayed into doing things that will make you crash and burn just for the aesthetic, just to follow other people. Be you, be authentically, ridiculously you, and that is okay. That is all for today. I'm gonna quickly do the card pull because honestly, I have a busy day ahead of me. But yeah. Okay, so for today's card pull, I'm using the Moonology deck by Yasmin Boland. The card I pulled was the end of a tough cycle approaches, full moon in Capricorn. How hard are you willing to work for what you want? This card is reminding you that effort is required. Work issues may be about to come to a head when this card comes up. If you are wondering if you should stay in your job or leave, this card can be a strong sign to make an exit. The end of a rough time is forecast. This card also asks you to consider how ambitious you are and whether you're prepared to pull out all the stops to make your professional dreams come true. Without being ruthless with a love question, this card can call to face reality. Whatever situation you're asking about, making a plan will help. If your personal life is troubled, prioritize it more. Attune to the moon, release control, and trust the universe. Additional meanings for this card. A professional project that may be ending now. Admit if you have been overly hard-headed or hard-nosed. Find balance between your personal and private lives. It's time to stop fearing the worst. The teaching. The full moon in Capricorn has a very strong work ethic and energy, and will more than likely come up when you're asking a professional question. If your question is about another matter, it will serve as a much needed reminder to move through any feelings of hopelessness you may have been feeling about your situation. And this applies no matter when you draw the card. Making a plan is a far better use of your time. So I don't know if I pulled that card because my energy was more aligned with it, but also astrology fact that soon enough Pluto is moving out of Capricorn into Aquarius. And if you're into astrology like the way I'm into astrology, which is for fun, leniency, but honestly interested in it because the in-depth research is fascinating, pulling this card means so much because for the cardinal signs, like myself, it has been a tough cycle for years. And I do think many of my life lessons focuses around myself and my relations to others. And I think this card is super fitting to a winter arc because when we go into it wanting to change something. We want something different. And when you are working through those issues, it does feel tough. But I think that the card is a reminder that this will get us to where we want to be. And even if things feel hard, allow yourself to shed and you'll come out better for it. This is a sign to be hopeful and to make a plan, like I said. Okay, so to end off what I'm grateful for, what I'm currently grateful for is the support I've been getting, mostly in terms of with starting with a new therapist, with receiving help from career counselors and everything like that, and having accessibility to that. Because I feel like for this past year, I've been trying to do a lot by myself. And with some aspects, it has worked, but I kind of accepted that it's okay to need help in certain areas, you know? So, because there's so much I want to accomplish that sometimes I overwhelm myself. And even this winter, quote unquote, winter arc, a huge aspect of it is I want to have more focus on my mental health, more focus on my career, and kind of going through and unlearning some things through the help of with my mental health, and also learning how to not overwhelm myself. Like, even for this winter arc, I'm trying to create a content schedule that actually works well for me. When the focus was just me, it was so easy to get hyper fixated on one part of my development journey. And I don't want to be like that anymore, and I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to be trying out the podcast on a bi-weekly basis. And I do want to get back into writing because that is honestly my main form of content. And also, if I do bi-weekly, it gives me more of an opportunity to catch up, because since I want my blog and this podcast to be connected, but I also miss writing how I used to, and not just writing centering on topics I already talked about. That is creating like this weird dynamic where I feel like I'm exhausting my creative part of my brain too much, and then I'm overwhelming myself in that aspect, and I can't think clearly in terms of like, oh, the next steps when it comes to like career stuff, when it comes to what I want to work through on an emotional and mental level. So yeah, I feel really grateful that I have accessibility to those things, those type of people. And yeah, I hope going into this winter arc it brings even more progress, because I do feel like through last winter, when all of this really started up, that it did change me in ways that I don't think I can fully describe, at least verbally. But yeah, so if you're listening, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're using a regular podcasting site like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, don't forget to follow the podcast. And we're going to try this on a bi-weekly basis moving forward and seeing how this goes. So, yeah, I hope this inspired you. Have a good day, evening, or night, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.